Hello and welcome to OzLoL Podcast, episode 116. My name's Caraclosis. We're going to be talking this week about OPL Week 4.5. We're going to be talking about Jin and a bunch of other assorted bits and bobs. And to help me with that, we've got Pixie.
Hi, no webcam because I'm currently naked in a motel.
Also,
I'm not
tethering
even
off the
kidding.
phone.
The moment I decided to turn the webcam off, I took off everything because it's so fucking hot here, man.
How can you be in a
And he's
hotel
also-
or a motel that doesn't have internet? Or do you just not have a computer?
No, I do have internet at the motel.
Okay.
He is talking to us.
I have.
No,
Yeah,
but
hello.
He said he needed to add like 500 gigs of his own data off your phone, presumably.
No, he
No,
said he
no,
ran out of data
no,
on his phone.
No, what happens? What happens here in like bumfuck nowhere, New Zealand, is you go to a motel and they all do this now. I don't know why, but you buy like of
Like-
data in these little vouchers. Have like basically sell on service providers. It's the dumbest shit ever.
Yeah.
So basically, there are companies out there that exist so that motels can sell data chunks. So I go to the front desk, I'm like, I need some internet, and they're like, it'll be $50 for 500 megs. So I go, well, I don't mind getting raped in the bum tonight, so I just go ahead and buy that. And then I go to my laptop, I click the network, it automatically opens my browser, takes me to the page provided by this company. I type in the code on my Dick in the Bum voucher, and voila, I have 500 megabytes of internet. This place gave us a free gig and a half, though, which I am thoroughly burning through. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. If I run out, I have to put in the code from the next voucher,
Okay.
like a Japanese internet cafe.
Yeah. Right. Um. We've also
Who
got.
else is joining
I was
us,
gonna
Kara?
say we got Billy, aka Blue Pandatron,
Hey guys, no
and
webcam
the
today.
only person with an actual webcam is Victor, who's returned.
Back from out of retirement yet again.
Yeah.
Retirement out of prison, more like.
You just remind me of that song someone put out earlier this week. High is never, ever, ever getting to retire.
They
We
used
need to
be-
make a version of that for you.
I gotta say though, when you're like 21 and you're talking about retirement, I think it's a bit silly.
I don't know. There's that guy from New Zealand who's worth like 40 million at the moment. He's only 21.
Yeah, but that's different from. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Well, let's just say it's very good to come here and be on the New Zealand LOL podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, last week, it's been a thorough takeover by the
Last
You guys,
week was
you guys
like,
were so
yeah.
you guys are so outnumbered without me. It's funny.
Yeah. And for all these years we were thinking, oh, we're mainly Australia because we never talked to anybody from New Zealand, and now we're talking about New Zealanders talking all the time. Anyway, let's move on. So we've got now last week I mentioned the Discord, which is a text/voice program that the Trinity Force Network is now using. If you go to discord.trinityforcenetwork.com, you can get a link, get into it. You can install the program. You can also use your web browser. So either way, you can connect to other players any time of the day. So yeah, let's hang on. I was about to look
You
at the
lost-
news, and it's got Smite and Pixie OCS, but we talked about that last week. So
Yeah. So are you guys
Well,
on
do they
this week?
have any,
well-
do they have any updates
what-
about their little
Well,
OCS?
we
journeys?
actually do. Got a little bit of a one. So this week, Smite and I are actually going to be starting on the OCS. So
Nice.
this will be the
Nice.
first week you can hear our dulcet tones on that hallowed broadcast this Thursday evening. I believe it starts at 6 p.m. AEDT. It might be AEST. I really don't know how you guys work your acronyms.
Or ASTD?
it's
I am
Standard
going to
Time
be-
or daylight savings time.
I have no idea. I am going to be in Wellington using a friend's computer, so it's going to be a bit of an adventure for me. But that's all part of the fun.
So Smite might
but
end
in
up
all
solo
seriousness-
casting.
In all seriousness, It's shaping up to be a pretty exciting tournament, honestly. I mean, we expected it would be. It's certainly a much bigger tournament than last year. It looks more like what the OPL did last year, just in terms of raw format. Though a little trimmed down, of course, because it has to fit into 7 weeks. In terms of talent, it is really, really stacked.
Yep.
A lot of really great teams, and it's a lot of new talent being brought up as well, unsurprisingly. So do tune in, please.
Awesome.
None of your mic sounds like that.
Oh, thanks. I'm gonna have to pack my Blue Yeti.
Now, Victor, you put something about Skyan putting.
Yeah, Skyan's been making the OPL Rewind comics, so I just think everyone should check them out because they're this fun little thing, and it's pretty cool that Skyan, who's actually pretty famous for his caster comics and everything like that, and was also on the T-Force podcast at the start of the year, is actually making his own little funny comics about the OPL. So I think that's pretty cool because it's gonna, oh hey, OPL's a thing. Ah, some funny stuff is happening. Let's maybe check
It
it
is
out.
pretty good. Some good
So
quality shit.
I think that's just pretty good for the scene.
Well, it plays off the age-old assumption that Australians are funnier than most people, which is generally true. I will concede.
Oh, thank you. I am pretty hilarious. I'm glad you finally actually told me. It's about time you admitted that.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah. Well, let's. I guess there's not much else to talk about. We should probably get into the OPL for this week. So there was only 2 matches or 2.
Only 2 matches. Holy crap! What a week.
But
Yeah,
still, it was pretty
only.
full on.
Come on, buddy.
So we had
Wow.
AV versus Infernum, and Hellions versus Legacy, and the results are spoilers. Infernum won 2-1, and Legacy.
You had to check yourself there.
Well, if somebody put 1-2, it's usually put wins before losses.
No,
but-
he just didn't think Infernum could do it, so he was doubting
Yeah.
himself there.
Yeah. We still think Avanda's a good thing.
Yeah.
I just did it in the same order I wrote the teams in.
That's
Okay.
confusing though.
So
No, but in all honesty, like holy crap, I can safely say that a bunch of people, including myself, pegged Infernum as like my bottom 2 team that were probably going to get
Yeah.
relegated. After that performance against Avant, holy shit, I can't believe I doubted them as much as I did. They're finally looking on form.
Yep, they were pretty darn impressive. So, well, let's go into the reasons why they looked so good. So, should we talk firstly about Yuzuki, the substitute support, who is now the real support because pretty much after those matches they kicked out their old support and took up Yuzuki as the new one.
Personal interests.
Yeah.
Quote unquote. No, but like Yuzuki was one of them. Him and probably like Stealthix were the main reason they won that series. Like he was like ungodly on Alistar. He went 0-12, well 0-12. And him and Stealthix, like they didn't die at all, and they just carried the shit out of that team. Like it was amazing in game 1.
Yeah, they've certainly established themselves as a bot lane to really, really respect. Yeah, honestly, it's all in the scorelines. And the thing is, like, Avant are still not a team to be trifled with. So, yeah.
And
Especially-
Infernum finally found something to counter Tom Kench and that Trundle.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, it has to be said as well. Like, this went to 3 games, eh? Like, it wasn't a ruffle stomp. Like, Avant really, really pulled out some smooth moves against Infernum as well. So, having 0 deaths in a game on, like, more than one member of your team is actually really, really impressive, given it's hard to say closeness to the series, because honestly Infernum did win, and when they win they still felt pretty convincing, but yeah, it's all in the numbers with the series. It really is.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Jack Attack like was pretty bland in that series. He just played Trundle, and it seemed to work for him. I don't know why it worked so well. I mean, he is strong, but I didn't peg him as being that strong. And I have to say though, Seb did make some serious plays in that game, in those games. Like it was really good to see them coming together as a team and drafting well and then playing well off of that draft. And it did culminate that win for them. And it'll be interesting to see how well they do in the next few weeks playing against those middle tier teams, and if they can actually take more wins off these teams and maybe even, unlikely, threaten the top 3 teams.
Yeah, there's some potential there. The only thing that I think would push them or hold them back from that is those top 3 teams are all still improving a lot from week to week. So there's still a lot of catch up for Infernum to do. Though this week was, a fair leap, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it just looked like a totally different team, like, compared to what we've seen before. Just, yeah, it was. I mean,
It was just the synergy was there for once.
Game 1 with Yuzuki. He was playing Alistair, I think.
Yeah.
And he was just playing
assists.
out of his frigging skin. Like, he was just, like, absolutely nailing those headbutt combos, like, brilliantly. And he was just the right level of aggression. And, it was a real big step up for them, I think.
And it all came down to that counter engage that I called early on in that first game. That was it. That's totally sealed the win. Even though I was talking about a completely different fight.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, yes, the actual fight that it was, yes, that was that was just so great. Thank you, OC Sports.
It was like the most incredible timing. I was like, oh yeah, now they're gonna talk about this fight that I was talking about, and they're like, oh, that's a big call. I don't think they could do it. And then all of a sudden, Infernum just come out and like turn the fight around and pick up 3 kills. It was so good.
It's always exciting when a bottom team comes and beats one of the more experienced
and I think
more
that
developed teams.
Well, slightly less bottom team, I think it has to be said, with this advanced
I say,
one. I mean,
Avant-Garde's been around for quite a long time, and they even won.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
They even won the whole thing a couple of years ago. I was there. I watched it. It was pretty great at PAX.
And no one really pegged Infernum to win this, and I think it is going to shake up the competition a bit more now.
Infernum's been underwhelming ever since they come into the OPL when they were absolute. They were absolute, right? I'm not stupid.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Ever since Infernum were absolute, and absolute came in a spot ahead of Sin Gaming when they first hit the OPL because Rich Gang got knocked out and Absolute got the free spot in, and then Absolute were like the bottom team and Sin were in like top 5 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the other interesting things this series showed was the fact that we now are starting to get teams that can play a series. And I always rag on about tournament fatigue and, to a lesser extent, series fatigue, but this is really it. Like, Infernum have obviously started to work past that series fatigue. And I mean, we're a couple of weeks deep. That's certainly what we're expecting, but they are also now a team that has been legitimately tested in that. Because I think we've only had, 2, maybe 3 series go to a third game?
Two now.
Yeah, this being the second. Yeah, so there are very few teams that have really been tested in that, and actually Infernum really showed up. I don't really want to say in spite of that, but I don't know. You get what I'm trying to say.
No one picked them to win anything. They've come out and said, actually, no, we're going to give it our best, and they did take that win. And it's really going to shake up those mid-level teams then who are going to look at themselves and say, holy shit. Infernum, who everyone thought was probably looking at relegation, has taken a win off Avant-Garde, who is looking pretty solid in that mid pack. So I think these other teams have to be a little worried now that Infernum might actually, sneak in and take these series.
Yeah, and the place that mitigation of series fatigue will help them is, say they're matched up against Legacy or, a team that hasn't actually gone to that third game and is currently being billed as like a top 4, top 3 team, and suddenly they drop a game. It'll throw them for an absolute spin, whereas Infernum are a team that are now looking like they could lose a game 1 and come back in a game 2 and then use that to their advantage, take game 3 in a fresh state. And I don't believe that is yet true of some of the other teams in the OPL right now. Though, in a couple of weeks, I think that will be true.
Yeah, and after a few weeks, we're going to work out who the series teams are and who the like one game stomp and walk away teams are. Like I've always looked at Chiefs as more of a walk in, stomp the first game, and then
Which I think
we're
is one
done
of the
here,
main
boys.
reasons they did lose to Direwolves.
Yeah,
Well,
and
and I
why
think
they and why when and why they don't perform so well on the international stage because they go
Yeah.
there and they got to play series and they'll win the first one and then they'll struggle as they'll struggle in the next few.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at that squad as a whole historically, all the way back to when their immunity. They're used to just being top dog. Like, certainly they're not cocky, or at least, I mean, maybe they once were. I'll be honest, I didn't track them too much back in the day, but they're not super cocky about it. But you do go into habits when you've been in that position for, a number of years as a contiguous team, even though, yes, members do change from time to time. So I would absolutely agree with you, Victor. Sorry, I'm just kind of elaborating on your point a little.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean that's the nail on the head. Legacy, on the other hand, I view as being a more series strong team because they have a bit more of that cerebral game, and I think actually, as we hit about halfway through this OPL, we're going to start to see a split between those teams, like you said, that are series teams and one game stomp teams, and some are going to have a lot of learning to do in playing the cerebral game. And a, an organization like Chiefs, you'd like to imagine, would have the capacity to learn that if they don't already have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna have to like because I've always seen Chiefs as a very sort of early to mid game strong team, and then if they know like games I've seen them lose are normally games that go too late and they can't survive too well in the late game. Like the 4-0 loss and the Direwolves loss was, they start strong and then they drop off. Or like
Yeah,
the
well,
4-0 game, they started strong, lost a late game team fight to a failed flash anti ult, and then the game swamped over.
Yeah, I mean, the
it's
Fortnite
that
loss, I think, is
cerebral
more
chess match.
Fortnite capitalized better. Like, capitalized really well on Chiefs clearly not giving a crap. I think Direwolves is a better example of actually being
Yeah.
outplayed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've always seen Chiefs as, they're the one game stomp team. They show up, they've got more confidence than everyone else. People are crapping their pants before they go to play against the Chiefs. They play the first game, they lose, and there's nothing else. Okay, Chiefs win. Now we come into a
Yeah,
series, Chiefs play, they win the first one, and then Chiefs carry the same attitude in the second one. The other guys go, hang on, that wasn't so bad. We can do this. Hang on a sec.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to
yeah,
see if Chiefs do hold that position in the power rankings, just because that things have been mixed up and it's not the way they're used to playing.
And we have to keep in mind,
yeah,
Legacy are only first right now because they've played more games than everyone else.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
this week. The standings are a little bit hard to look at just because there hasn't been a full
Halfway.
round of games played yet. Yeah, and I think it stays that way for a couple of weeks. I think we don't get a super week, if you will. I did a little quotation marks, but I'm not on webcam, so what's the point? We don't get that until a couple of weeks. So for a couple of weeks, the standings are going to be a little bit dishonest. Um, yeah, I don't think there's too much more to really say about the Chiefs because we're kind of repeating ourselves. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're absolutely looking like the top team that will struggle the hardest.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess as a summary.
But I mean, this is why, in like in the LCS and LCK and wherever they're hiring sports psychologists and they talked about on the T-Force proper where you come in and you want to have the Muhammad Ali attitude of you're coming here and you're the best and you're going to beat everyone else. But you got to be humble in your loss in that, yeah, okay, you're better than me now, but I'm going to get better later. And that's really important in a series to an attitude to have in a series because you don't want to show up and being wobbly like, ooh, I'm not sure about this one, guys. You want to come
Yeah,
and you're like, we're ready, we're going to beat them. And even if you lose, go, okay, you beat us this time, but we're not done yet. We can learn a couple things. And that's when flexibility comes into it. How are you going to alter your team comp?
mm,
Are you gonna swap up? Are you gonna go for a more late game strong thing, focus dragons or whatever, blah blah blah.
I
So
mean,
yeah.
mental
Well,
fortitude is kind of like if you look at all the really top players in the world, like they have something in their head that makes them just have a level of determination that most people don't, and I think that's a huge part of it. The mental fortitude to actually succeed is a huge aspect of it. So
Yeah, well, and also part of it is mental fortitude and mental discipline. It's not being thrown for a loop when you lose game one. I think one of the first teams that actually brought on a sports psychologist was SK Gaming, and it was way back in like late season 2 or something when they had OzLoL on the roster, who was, notorious for being a very emotional player, and they brought on a sports psychologist because they recognized that. And OzLoL was like, yeah, okay, you're right. If we want to continue performing, I need to learn to mitigate some of this. And that's probably not what set the precedent. I think the precedent was that competition got tighter and people wanted every edge they could get. But it just goes to show the use of that. Now, yes, SK then got relegated less than a year later, but yeah, it's identifying the emotional weaknesses of your team.
and I mean, often, I mean, let's be real. Like, all these teams are made up of young boys, essentially.
Yeah.
17, 18, 19.
And we
formerly
are
a girl.
emotionally retarded. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, literally, like, men's brains are undeveloped. Like,
Yeah, we're like half finished at that point.
Yeah, like it's not till 25 that we reach, like we finish developing our brains, and so yeah, and the management of those teams are all 20-something-year-olds, So I mean, if you look at, I've said this a billion times before, but if you look at a professional football team, you've got 60-year-old coaches with 50-year-old assistant coaches and a raft of coaches under them who are all, like basically you've got all these old people essentially there whose sole job more or less is to stop these idiots from ruining their lives outside of the game.
Yeah.
And even then you still get stuff like guys acting like idiots, and that's when they're getting paid millions of dollars to play a professional sport. So
yeah,
I don't think we
like
should
league stars having sex with dogs.
I was gonna go there, but I didn't want to.
Go look.
Well,
if you don't know anything about rugby league and you want to see something pretty novel, go check out Mitchell Pearce. I think is his name.
Don't go check it out, Don't.
And I have to say
man,
that
I've seen 40-year-old, there are 40-year-old politicians putting their willies in pigs' heads. Like, let's be real here.
Oh, come on.
David
back
Cameron,
on topic
thank you very
though,
much.
in all honesty, I have to say that as a region, we do have quite a negative outlook on the game. Like, of all the regions that I've played about on 5 different regions so far. Our region is the most, but they're more likely to call GG earlier in the game. Like, as soon as one fight goes bad, they'll call GG, and that'll be it, and they'll just give up. And that does, I think that does reflect into the way they play the OPL at the moment. Like, they've gone from best of 1 series where if you lose one game, that's it. And now they're playing best of 3s, and their mentality hasn't quite shifted to being that, oh, we've lost this one, we should start, or we're in a position where we're not going to win this game, we should start thinking about the next game.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Deal with
It's
that.
really
the thing is, like,
so you go.
well, it's that, like, if you really get 20 minutes into a game and you want to call GG, then yeah, fuck, by all means. But getting 20 minutes into game 1 and calling GG on the whole series just isn't going to fly. And like you said, the teams are learning that. And
Like,
I think it's not that extreme. Pro teams don't quite do that, but that mentality
there've been
can
a couple.
still stick.
But like they need to, if they do realize that they're in a position where they're not going to win the game, they need to say, okay, we'll keep this going for as long as we can. But while we're doing it, we'll look to the next game and figure out what to do there, so we're in a better position going into Champ Select or bans.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all good and well to say, well, yeah, these guys don't know how to do that, but whenever they ever really had the pressure to do it.
That's the thing. It's not that they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
They've never been in a position where they've needed to, and it's something they will have to learn in the coming weeks just to get that mental advantage going into a game 2 after dropping the first one.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't help but feel, no matter how the OPL falls this season, you can't help but feel that we'll have a much better showing, at wildcards, purely because of this. And then there will also be the general increase in skill and so forth that comes with the expanding infrastructure in our region. It's all looking good. I mean, there's growing pains, but hell, that's going to happen no matter how you slice it.
Its final exam.
Yep. All right. Any final thoughts?
There was another series played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although really, do we? It was quite a stomp. Like
Yeah,
Early on,
Legacy
Hellions-
got
won.
beat.
Hellions picked up 2 turrets in that entire series, and Choo Choo's got 9 kills in both games. Like it was by definition a stomp. Like
Yeah.
Hellions are coming into this week, and they still haven't got it quite together. Like they're not quite picking the champions they need to, and I think that's a lot of that's coming down to Bomb. Bomb was really, really, really strong in that week 1 Anivia, and
Yep.
he hasn't picked it since, and everything else he's picked just hasn't felt like it's fit in the comp they've played, and they've really suffered because of it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you identify that because I think there's two things we've really talked about in the last couple of weeks of OPL, and one of them has been the fact that most of these have been 2-0 games. We've talked a lot about mentality, and we'll probably keep talking about mentality for the rest of the season as it slowly changes for these teams. But the other big one has been pick ban. Like, how many times have we seen a team pretty much lose in pick ban? Every time Trident plays, we talk about how they lose in pick ban. And yeah, sure, you're picking against Legacy. They're probably one of the stronger pick ban teams out there, right? But still, pick ban shouldn't be that glaring a weakness for a team.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, the thing that makes these players like in solo queue, pick ban doesn't really matter that much. Like I'm sure in like challenger, it does matter to more than it would in bronze. Like bronze is just people pick whatever the hell they want. Um, so I'm sure in challenger it matters. Having said that, in the end, what gets you into challenger is not necessarily how you do it well you do in pick ban. It's how well you do in the game. So I think it's
Yeah.
one of those things that solo queue doesn't really give you that much experience on it. You know, I mean, how much ranked 5 are these guys actually playing once they get into, get past the sort of those early, like the open ladder type situation? I don't know. I mean, I guess it's something that I don't necessarily think players will have obviously a better understanding
I
of it.
think the difference is in Challenger you pick what's strong for you that you can carry on to win
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
Whereas when you get into like these 5-man teams, you're picking what complements the team and the team comp.
Yeah.
Which will ultimately win you the game, because if you go
Well-
off and do your own thing, you are going to lose, and you're going to lose
Yeah.
really badly.
Well, it's like what you said about Anivia. I mean, Bomb had a great showing on it, but they haven't actually been able to fit it into any of their other comps. So they are clearly trying to do the right thing by pick and ban, but unfortunately they don't have the individual strength within picking what is needed for the team, and they're struggling to find it, which is true of a lot of teams.
Yes, in a professional 5v5 game, like that's like pick ban is the very theoretical part, and like you have to have done your research before you come into the game. Like, I've been watching these chief games. I better ban this champion. I got to take that away from them. Don't want them to come and stop. And it's something you adjust with from game to game. So, that was a big problem, that Twisted Fate last game. They really screwed us up. We got to take him off the board. We just can't deal with it. Or
Yeah.
that Twisted Fate was a problem. Let's pick something to deal with that Twisted Fate. And on
Well-
top of that, and this is very OCE specific. Coaches are not allowed in voice comms with the players, period. Not during pick bans, not during game. It's not like when you go on and watch LCS live on stage, the coaches are back there going, "Oh, okay, I think we need to pick this one and delete. No, you need to come
Calm
on,
down,
pick that
Yamato.
one."
Yeah.
And also them being little boys. Another problem Steve had all the time when he was analyst was that they wouldn't always listen to him. Like when he was allowed to be in the pick bands, he'd say we should pick this one, and then J.K. Smithy would just lock in Malphite, and Steve would be like, "That's not what I said."
Yep.
I think
That
the
was
main
an
problem
issue.
is
Yeah.
Like most
the
of
main problem with Hellions is that it's not external. They don't need to be looking at the other teams and what they're picking. They need to look internally and say, look, this is what we can play. This is what we can play well that works together. We need to stick to these champs and perfect them. Like if they're literally looks like they're fishing around for what they think might work in these games, and it's literally just falling apart.
Yeah, and that's not something you can afford to do against Legacy of all teams. But it's interesting what you were saying, Victor. Especially with the no coaches being allowed. Like we're back to Lemon Nation's notebook and season 3 kind of stuff. And someone commented, this is way back. I think it was season 3 Worlds actually, about why a lot of the Korean teams always look so strong. And they were like, well, they play a series and then they don't play for a week. Like they have a week to just study up on the other team and look at their picks, look at their bans, and the pick entire pick ban process is so much more cerebral because then there's also a series of bluffs and mind games going on within that pick ban, whereas by comparison at the time the LCS was like sometimes teams were playing 2 games a week. I think a lot of the time they were playing 2 games a week, so it was just very constant, right, straight to the next one, straight to the next one. So you're really just kind of picking for yourself, and then the team that came out and had done at least a bit of a depth of research in other teams their pick bans suddenly did amazingly well. Like, imagine if an Oceanic team started doing that. It could even be a team like Trident, like I can't even remember their name, and we're fucking talking about them.
Hellions.
Hellions.
Hellions, there we go. You guys couldn't even get it right the first time. Hellions, like, even it seemed like that if they started actually playing the pick ban game just like better than everyone else, they would start really pulling out wins, and there just aren't teams investing the time into that yet. And it's interesting what you said, Billy, about looking internally, because I think that's Trident's exact same, but different teams, different games.
Because a lot of these players are solo queue heroes, and they have their like, oh, I can play this really, really well, and they just keep playing that, and they're not quite used to like conforming to the team comp. And that's I've seen Rex struggle with that. He just sticks to that LeBlanc, and luckily for him, it has worked out. But it is going to get to the point where they're going to have to say, actually, no, we need you to play something like an Orianna so that you can like keep our AD carry alive, or so we have this hard engage with like a Zac or something. And I reckon it's going to hit him really hard because he's not going to be ready for it.
Right.
Yeah, you're going to tell him to play
really
Lulu, and he's going to say, give me 5 cups of coffee or I'm going to fucking fall asleep this game.
Yeah. Why didn't my distortion work? Oh, that's right. I'm Lulu.
Yeah.
All right, that was a pretty good OPL discussion, guys. I really enjoyed that.
You know what we should really talk about? I know we should talk about the champion release schedule. Shouldn't we, Victor?
Not right now. Tarek, what games are happening?
Victor's been salty all week because we talked about Tarek without him.
I will be salty for the rest
He's
of the
been
year.
saltier than a pretzel.
What games are coming up next week, Carrot?
Yes, so we've got Inferno versus Legacy on Monday. We got Trident and Hellions Tuesday at 6.
Which
AV
is
versus
going
Chiefs.
to be the most clown fiesta pick ban.
Oh, yeah.
AV versus Chiefs Tuesday at 9. And Sin versus Direwolves on Wednesday. So,
Yeah,
which one?
All these games look pretty one-sided, honestly. Like, except for the Trident Hellions, that one could go either way.
Oh yeah, that one's going to a game 3, and like each one of them is going to be 80 minutes, and it's going to be great. Like, I love it.
Well, actually, it's the kind of game that's going to like. It's going to be so even that, like, by the end of the game, it's literally going to come down to who like flashes into a wall first.
Yeah, actually, it has to be said, for all their criticisms, Trident do have much better late game shot calling than Hellions, and possibly even some of the other higher up teams. But we'll have to see how this series actually goes before we can really ratify that. But the schedule is changing ever so slightly. Carrot, do you want to walk us through that as well?
Is it?
It's like an hour.
Yeah, Double Day is now Tuesdays rather than Wednesdays.
Okay, yeah.
We'll be staying that way for a while.
Okay.
And as for our Super Week, we don't get it until the very end of February, so end Feb, start March. So I think we still get another 2 or 3 weeks of games.
That's not very far off.
It isn't,
No,
but
it's
there's
not.
still quite a few games between now and then where we can't really rely on the scoreboard. Or the standings, rather.
Yeah.
But hey.
Well, I mean, we're basically almost halfway through the split.
Not far off.
Which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it.
Are we really? Well, the last game is on the 23rd of March. I wouldn't call us halfway through at all. We're only at the beginning.
Almost halfway.
Well, we're next week is week 5
almost.
of a 10-week split.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, looks like you guys did math better than me. All right. I'll just
because math is
with
hard.
my hump pie.
Yeah.
Get wrecked.
I climbed a mountain today. I have excuses.
Mate, I've been up since 11 o'clock yesterday playing XCOM.
So you did that to yourself. You didn't actually work hard.
It's not like Pixie walked over the mountain. Somebody dragged him over the mountain involuntarily. Like, he inflicted it on himself too. But yes, anyway, I'm just saying I can count. Even though I'm massively...
But you were literally sitting on your ass.
Affliction.
I finished work at 2 o'clock in the morning yesterday. Well, it's this morning, I guess. Can I complain
I
about how
went to my
tired I am?
grandmother's 75th birthday at a winery. So
Oh,
yeah,
you win, man. You win.
Kyle,
I don't want to go to no
boys.
70-year-old birthdays.
I could
Let's
only eat
Bro,
like one thing because everything else was so wanky that I didn't know what it was.
let's talk about gin.
soy, decaf, gluten free.
Pixie, we're
But my,
talking
my
about gin
fries,
now.
my fries were
Oh,
Gin,
cooked in truffle
Billy,
oil.
Billy, intern, listen here, buddy.
Wow.
Billy, the intern.
the gin
Victor comes
turn.
back and he's just like
Gin turn.
driven. So gin's been out for a week now, week or so. Just want to talk about what people think. We did some impressions when the sort of the champion was first announced. I was great.
Holy shit balls, he is strong.
Yeah, I wasn't like I was like, whatever. Doesn't look as good. Like just as
I
like Caitlyn.
played I played a 50-minute game against Jin, and well, I was with a full party of friends. Five of us were there, and then about 50 minutes into the game, when they're pushing into our base, they got most of our inhibs down, and someone says, "This is my friend Brady." Goes, "Holy shit! Jin has 823 AD."
Oh yeah,
Wow.
it's broken. Okay, so I
Yep.
have this friend who's quite high level, and he was that guy that like as soon as Jin comes out, it's like I'm playing it in ranked, and so he did. Um, and he has like an 80% win rate, and he's been playing like nothing but that. In fact, he's so strong that he was in Champ Select, didn't realize he had top, thought he was mid, picked Jin, ended up against Alessandra, and was 3-0 by 8 minutes.
Yeah.
But this is also release week. Like the thing
Yeah.
with how strong a champion looks like, they haven't been able to play around them a whole lot. Like I've only played 3 games with Jin involved, and two of them only had one Jin. The other one had 2 Jins, right? Uh,
And a
and
tonic.
the one that had two, yeah, the one that had 2 of them, ours was mid, and theirs was bot lane. I was playing support, right? And we won that game. Like we ruffle stomped that lane, and it wasn't just because Jin is a brand new champion and the guy was playing like crap, because that is also a thing that happens in release weeks. It's his kit is very, very slow and methodical, and you know exactly what point of his damage cycles he's at because you can see his ammo bar too, and you can avoid his bouncing grenades with surprising ease. You can start dodging out his ultimate. You can use that as a window to engage when he's immobile even. There's so many windows and they're so heavily telegraphed. If you ignore them, you get smacked in the face. But if he's sitting on his 4th shot and there's like a cannon in the wave, you can just step back and suddenly he's forced to make a really, really shitty decision where he's like, okay, I could start putting myself ahead in terms of the damage trade in this lane, but fall behind the CS. I'm going to have to miss position in order to get the damage trade, so I'm just going to take the CS. Then, boom, he's reloading, you go in, and you're ahead on the damage trade without having to sacrifice CS potentially. So, playing to his windows is going to be a really big thing with Jin, and being successful with Jin is all going to be about having a team that allows him to minimize how wide the window is open, if
Yeah,
you will.
I have to
I have
say,
to agree with Pixie for the most part. Like release week is just the shittiest time for anything that's been released.
Oh
It is the
yeah.
shittiest time in League of Legends ever. And the thing I hate about it the most is that Riot are always very quick to patch it. It's like, okay, Jin's just settled in. Oh, he's
Yeah.
coming in patch
Yeah.
6.2, and then 6.3 they'll nerf or buff him, and it's like,
I have to
hey,
say this
maybe
though.
we should let him sit for a little bit because, like, I agree with Pixie. I think he's got very clear windows. You can see where he's when he's powerful, when he's weak. You know, okay, now he's ulting, now he's not ulting. Oh, there's a little flower bomb thing. I better walk out of it. Ah, his big line skill shot's got a big timer on it. I gotta walk out of that. Ah, his
Yeah.
bouncing grenade is really slow. You can see everything. And so, like, it was hard for me to get used to, and I'm still struggling. Okay, I really need to back off when he's got that 4th shot because that's doing like a quarter of my life bar if I'm staying too close to him. Like,
But the
you,
thing about Riot though, so they have at their disposal more tools than we actually get to see. So people always talk about win rate, but they have all sorts of statistical analysis that they can do at Riot that we have no idea about. So I think when they nerf something, I think it's not just because people are upset or whatever. I think it's actually genuinely because they see something in the data that says there's something a bit off about Jin that
I
maybe
I
I
have to
have to
say though,
disagree. I have to disagree with that
well
because I believe first week information is too skewed to look at. I think you got people who will wreck shit with Jin. You'll have people that are down in the dumps with Jin because people don't know how to play Jin. People don't know how to play against Jin, and then you get no
yeah, but
accurate data, and
you
it's
literally have no
filled with
idea
outliers.
what the decision making process
Yeah.
at Riot is like. So like it's a completely
Well,
opaque
well,
process.
but no, uh, in all fairness, like I'm saying that more in a devil's advocate kind of way. Because honestly, for the most part, you're definitely right. For the most part, you're definitely right. But okay, for the most part, I'd say you're right. But I also think Victor has a point in that often in release weeks they are quite quick to knee jerk, and I think they'd rather have something be a little bit underpowered, basically so as not to piss off the player base, and then slowly bring it back up. Even if it ends up back up to where it was at release week, I think they tend to be quite happy with that. That being said, I find they've become less heavy-handed with it more recently. Like when a champion is really oppressive right at the start, they'll bring it down, and when a champion is really underwhelming, they'll actually take a couple of patch cycles to start bringing them up. Like Kindred, I don't think had any like really major changes the first week out. They're like, well, we just want to see a little bit longer, and they've started to kind of go that direction. They've started to be a bit more sensible, and I think that's just because they've got more space between champion releases. If you had your next one coming out in 2 weeks, you'd be like, oh my god, and we still haven't got this champion right. Just nerf it to the ground. Nerf it to the ground. We'll figure it out later.
go full
I mean,
Aurelia.
you don't want an Aatrox situation where he's released and he's the strongest champion in League of Legends for 2 days, and then he gets nerfed once and we never see him again.
I have to say though, with Jin,
Except for when Wicked played it.
with Jin, I really don't think the nerfs should be that big, because yes, he is strong if he's played well, but he is also incredibly immobile and he's easy to deal with because he's squishy. It's all the only reason
Oh,
he would be nerfed is because people don't know how to play against him, and they're not going to know how to for the next week and a half. Like there are
well,
players already.
He gets really dicked by assassins, and guess what's happening next patch? We're getting an assassin item, and it's not crazy overpowered one, but it's going to help those AD assassins where they're behind. So suddenly, a Jin who is ahead can't just ignore the Z, which
Yeah.
is a very significant thing for
Looks like
immobile
my Rengar,
ADCs.
looks like my Rengar jungle is coming back.
Oh god. Yeah, I mean that's a separate conversation. There's actually a lot to be said about that item in particular, but yeah, I think Jin is just fantastically executed, and I mean Victor and I both said it now, just so clear in both his weaknesses and strengths. So I think actually he'll have a much shorter adjustment time than a lot of champions when people start figuring out how to play both with him and against him.
Yeah, champions I like are champions that are clear, have clear windows of power and clear windows of weaknesses. Now,
Which
like,
is the problem with Echo.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say
Never
the
know what
exact
he's
same
gonna
thing. Which is why I also have a problem with Yasuo, because there is no downtime for Yasuo, and that's what I don't like about a lot of champions.
He's always moving, and then he's got a shield, and then he's
Okay,
got
Pixie,
something to block
I
shit,
agree,
and
I
that-
agree, but we have to tone it down, man. My man, we have to tone it down. We can't have a shit on Riot's design session right now.
Okay, buddy, calm down.
Another week. Can we just
So
have a podcast where for the whole hour we just shit on old things? Like, God, remember
back in the
release
days?
Beta TF? God.
Yeah, I mean, I've never agreed with. I mean, this is more Victor Show content than OzLoL content, but I've never agreed with champions that like the balance idea is to make them hard to play because, like, then how do you balance a player's skill? Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like a Draven, if you're playing Draven to the best of your ability, Draven doesn't have downtime. If you're playing a Callista to the best of your ability, Callista doesn't really have downtime.
Yeah, or
So
Azir.
and So I've always like it's a very difficult thing to balance if a champion doesn't have clear weaknesses. Where the weakness is, well, if you're not very good at them, then you're gonna have some trouble. Ho ho.
Yeah,
And that's especially bad for professional play
I
because
absolutely agree.
you expect them to be good at those champs.
Yeah,
And
only
then it
thing
just
to note.
becomes and then it just becomes like a battle between numbers and numbers like just all right, make this a little bit more damage, a little bit less damage. Then that's just the worst way to balance something is to nerf and buff numbers.
Yeah, on the notion of professional play, actually, we are going to be on patch 6.2 for, I'd imagine, a week or so.
But
Couple weeks
will
maybe.
Jin be enabled in
Not.
pro play?
I can only speak for the OCS, and he will definitely not be in OCS. I imagine he will not be in OPL as well, and I'd be surprised if we see him in the likes of LCK and LPL. But I also don't know what they do with their tournament realm.
Here comes the choo-choo's Jin mid.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I imagine we won't be seeing him in competitive for another week at least.
Or it's gonna be like the double lift over in the NALCS.
I would like to see him. Hey, and then we can go. Oh my god, did you see that Cloud9 Jin game? They sucked.
So
Relegations.
what were some of the things that changed in your mind between the initial first seeing and the actual release of Jin? Like, what was it that you saw and went, oh, that's different to what I expected?
Fuck, very little, eh? Very, very little. He was actually everything I was kind of expecting, like all the way down from the notion of theme at release. I think he grew on a lot of people, and a lot of people kind of click like, oh, I see it now. But I didn't quite have that. Like, I don't say that to mean like, oh, I'm just so much smarter. I figured it out for everyone. Like, it just felt like a very well realized champion to me. And going into gameplay, I was like, yep, well, this is what I thought I was going to be up against. I'll
I
just
have
go
to
ahead
say
and
though,
pick
the,
it up.
the one thing
I played Tarek with him, and then I was like, aha, check out this level 1 cheese. I'll stun him, and you press you press the W button.
I have to say
And
though,
It's
like
also
the one thing
his audio lines really won me over, and I was like, wow, this guy
Mm.
is just so full of character. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like I have to say, the one thing I didn't really take into account upon like looking at his release was like his mobility. Like you're like, oh god, looking at like basically just what he is from the release. It's like, holy crap, this guy's overpowered while Victor does a sexy dance. Like it's like, holy crap,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
guy's overpowered. He does
The
a shit
pistol
ton of
grip.
damage. And then like you see him in game, and it's like, oh, actually, the payoff is that he's quite immobile, and if you jump onto him, he's basically dead.
Yep.
Yeah. And the movement speed buff he gets after his crit, like, it's no get excited. Like, it is actually a very small movement thing. Like, it's good for a bit of repositioning, but it's not like an escape tool after you've committed to going all in or anything like that. Like, it is just a minor thing to help him move about in team fights.
On the
Especially, I mean,
topic of-
especially
on
given
the
that
topic
like
of
it only triggers on the fourth shot, so you're not going to get with the jinx where
Yeah.
you're snowballing off the repeated, get excited. Where this is going to be fourth shot, and then you're going to wait 3 more shots to get another one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
well,
for the most part,
the-
it's like you sit in roughly one place and you get all the way up to your big damage, and then you get an opportunity to reposition. And you either commit and get payoff, or you don't commit, and then there's also a big punishment with his reload times for his getting up to his fourth shot. So
Yeah.
again,
And
like
also,
really
attack
win
speed.
stuff.
Attack speed doesn't give him attack speed. He has a fixed attack
Yeah.
rate as well. But on the topic of move speed, real quick, how do you guys feel about the current rise in 80 carries running swiftness boots?
Everyone is
Graves
running
is
swift boots.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
Swiftest boots
I-
on
I
Callista, fuck off.
I looked into this because like the very first week of OPL, it's like why is everyone wearing swiftness boots? So I tweeted to Atlas about this. This is my little brush with fame, or maybe it was Spawn. I can never remember. I think it must have been Spawn. I was like, hey Spawn, why is everyone running swiftness boots? Also, you're adorable. And he was like, thanks. Let's go for a coffee. Everyone's running swiftness boots because boot costs have been standardized. To some extent, and our swiftness boots are much more cost efficient than a lot of other boots. So I don't like that it is better for 80 carries to wear swiftness boots, but the problem with AD carries is it is inherently a min-max role. The item, the way they've changed the itemization has totally changed that. Like, I really like that. But boots haven't changed in that same regard. Like, with AD carries and boots, it is always going to be a case of min-maxing, which is the most efficient thing. It was always Zerka's Greaves because that was the most efficient thing they could get for damage output. Now it's the most efficient thing in terms of how I'm spending my gold and what movement speed I gain. It kind of sucks. I think the problem is more that Swiftness boots are just good on just about everyone.
Yeah.
I like them.
All right.
I've never been more pissed off than playing against a Callista with Swiftness boots. Like, that
Oh,
shit
No,
is
no, no, no,
impossible
no.
to catch.
A
You
Sivir
just
with
tilt-
a
you just tilt-
Sivir with Swifties is so much worse. Trust me, my friend. Oh, that was absolute torture. She ran at 1,000,000 miles an hour, more than what I ever would have expected, and then I couldn't even crowd control her because I got a spell shield. Thanks for the mana, nerd. And I'm like, get back here.
Like, Sivir's just some kid running around on your lawn.
I'm
Get back here!
trying to shoot her down with my Graves shotgun, but she's too damn fast.
So, with what you've seen of Jin this week, which are the good? What sorts of things should somebody's thinking, yeah, I want to play Jin, but haven't got him yet, haven't had a chance to play them. What would be some sort of like just a general tips of specifics about Jin and why what those people they should be looking out for?
Ooh.
Or
It's,
match like
I've-
bottom lane matchups or that work well.
He's garbage with Braum. Don't pick him with Braum. You're never gonna get that passive off, and that's such a key trading tool in lane. Braum against him, fucking beautiful. Anything he can kind of CC chain with is great. Jin Alistair is pretty nice. I reckon Jin Leona will be great when Leona starts to come back in a bit more.
Yeah, I think
He's
the key
got
one
a
is
lot of rough matchups. I wouldn't want to blind pick Jin, I'll be honest, just because he needs to be counterpicked. Or rather, he needs to be a counterpick.
I mentioned
So just before
I
we move
mentioned
on,
Tarek.
hang on.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I've shut up. I've shut up. Why, Tarek?
Now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh my gosh. Oh, Canopic. Why do you say that? What is it that makes him, like, why, why do you say that he should be a
bro.
Canopic?
It's all about the windows, man. It's like I was saying before, it's all about the windows. I mean, you could not worry about the lane matchup quite so much if you are in a 5 and you can get away with playing safe, and you got a team comp that really works well with Jin, minimize the windows, blah, 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 all that jazz. If not, you're just looking at the raw lane matchup, and it's not that, like, half the time he's amazing and half the time he's shit. It's more like you want to know what you're getting into with Jin, and I'll be honest, I kind of like that, because in my opinion, that ties into the overall character of someone who meticulously plans out what he does and where he does it. But like I said, you don't want to be stuck with some rando support that plays Braum because it's the only champion he knows. You don't want to be up against any particularly hard matchups because you're just not going to be able to do the things you want to do. And the thing you want to do is hit them, hit the enemy laners with your fourth shot just about every time. Try and catch them with all your dancing grenades. Try and lay down some sneaky traps to just up the damage a bit. So far I've seen him have more success in mid purely because there's less variables. And I think that'll change when we start seeing him in competitive and people, like, the average player gets a better handle of, like, what he's good against and with. And I also think we won't see him a whole heap in blind pick.
Except at the
he
moment,
is very
because everybody
niche.
wants to play
Yeah,
him at the moment.
except at the moment. Yes, absolutely.
And
But,
honestly,
I
he's
mean-
a better mid laner than he is an ADC, just because of his kit.
Mm,
I mean,
maybe.
like, because he's got that mark that procs off allies. Like, an ally auto attack will proc his mark, which can combo into his stun. Like, I'm a big fan of Tarek Jin because what's easier to land than a Tarek stun? Like, land the Tarek
Yeah.
stun, and then he just snares, and damn it, now they're all shooting me. What am I gonna
Yeah,
do?
which is also why he's really, really strong in jungle engages. Like, if you invade at level
Yeah.
1, Like it's ridiculous. Like I queued with my friend who plays him a lot, and literally every game we played, we got first blood because we invaded, and we'd just get that snare
Yep.
and we'd kill them.
It is very, very strong.
Very good combo, CC.
But I don't think it's as good as something like the zap gun for
Jinx.
Jinx. You know, like
It-
if you look at how like they're two very different skill shots. Like if you think about Jinx's zap, it's often for sniping people and getting the get excited to, get away from the kill or get out from under the turret or whatever it is. Where
Yeah, but, like, Jinx Zap is for its damage. Like,
it's
Yeah.
also
this is
harassment,
this is
harassment,
very
yeah.
clearly for the snare and
Yeah.
Yes.
working with
It's
your
a s-
teammates to land the snare. Like a
it's
Jinx
all for the
Zap. A
setup.
Jinx Zap scales with 100% of your total AD.
Yeah, this ability on Jin is all about setup. I mean, even the shot itself, like he lines it up and he takes a long time to line it up, and then he shoots it, and the projectile is fucking fast. Like it took me several games to actually see the projectile moving, but it is very much a setup tool, and even better if someone else can help him set up. They get a snare so that he can get a snare and start laying down all his big ass damage. He chews through couple of shots so that he can get to his crit, throws down the crit, throws down a grenade, and hey, that's how he wins a trade
Yeah.
because he needs to set up.
And he also doesn't really miss out on anything if he takes his W first. Like, if Jinx takes Zap first, then Jinx misses out on her level 1 minigun and Fishbones rockets.
Yeah.
Or like Caitlyn, if you want to take traps where you can't snipe people at the start of the game with your Q, and so you got to play a different style of game with your traps. Like Jin, okay, you get your crappy little bouncing grenade, which doesn't start coming good until later.
Yeah. Well, we were going to talk about time management, I think, but we might have run out of time.
Yeah,
Again.
we're basically going about 3 minutes to go. So
We have 3 minutes. I play League before I go to bed, after I get home from my evening job, and after I tell my girlfriend I'm going to bed so she can go to bed. Then I'll play League with my friends.
I play League after work on occasion if I have time, and sometimes I'll play one last game even though I know my girlfriend is about to come over, and then she gets mad at me because I'm still playing League when she arrives, and frankly, I think that's fair enough of her.
Okay, so I'm that guy that's like, I'll put my girlfriend to go to bed. And I'll be like, don't worry, I'll play one game to come to bed, and then next minute it's like 3 o'clock in the morning.
yeah.
And then you just don't bother going to bed.
Yeah, pretty much.
See, my issue is that I've only got so many hours to play in the week, and I play other games as well. So, like last year,
Yeah.
Which is why I end
four.
up playing till like 3 in the morning.
That's, I think, why we want to have the time management conversation.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Right now, my mind
I'll
is
give a
completely
sh-
in XCOM 2 because oh my gosh, that game's amazing.
Yeah. I'll give
Hey,
a
it's
shout
like,
out to.
I've been playing The Witness.
I'll give a quick shout out to Modbro. I used to talk to Modbro heaps. I need to actually start talking to him again. What have I done? Modbro decided that he was neglecting his family and his wife a little bit, and of course he had his daughter on the way at that point. And so he said, "All right, I'm gonna start making some changes." So he decided he'd dedicate one day a week where he'd stop playing blind pick forever, and he'd put some actual time and effort into a proper, more fulfilling ranked game or ranked team game. He started wanting to play with a ranked team so that for him, after a proper ranked game, he'd feel more fulfilled with himself and he wouldn't have to go and grind out boring, meaningless blind pick games. And that was his big solution. And it seems to have worked out for him, though I've come onto the game a couple times and seen him playing blind pick. Naughty, naughty, naughty. There's dynamic queue now. Why aren't you queuing with your friends, Mod Bro? Shout out to Mod Bro.
That's actually quite interesting. I play a lot of blind pick. Over last year when I just wasn't playing League much at all, I actually played a lot of ARAM because honestly I still wanted to play League, but I didn't want to have the commitment of actually playing League. But yeah, it kind of sucks to sequester this discussion because we probably will have to. But yeah, it's actually a really interesting topic to try and cover, and it's a very personalized thing, I think, for each person. Funny that how each person is personalized.
Yeah,
because we all have different ways we fit it in.
Yeah, we did the straw poll and we got 25 votes. Thank you very much for everyone who voted. And it was very even. Like people who played 5 hours and people who played 21 hours, the difference was 2 votes. 4 and 6. So
That's really interesting, actually.
No,
Yeah.
I'm that like 21 plus guy.
I was a 21 plus guy too. I
You,
played
you are.
heaps.
Well, there's those 2 votes. Well, and
Uh,
funnily enough, I think I was in that 5 camp.
Unfortunately, I think we have lost Carrot.
No, I'm back. I'm back. It's all
Oh,
good.
he is. He's
Yeah,
alive.
no, it just
He was
but-
just dazed.
yeah. No, my microphone decided to switch itself off and not turn
Oh.
itself
It was
back
just
on.
like,
Oh, my
Carrot.
headset has done that like 3 times. You're getting 4 different Audacity files off me tonight.
Oh joy.
it's just like
All right,
Carrot's
well,
computer, like,
any,
go play XCOM.
Yeah.
Oh.
I probably should get to bed sometime soon because I got to work tomorrow.
Oh,
but anyway.
God.
All right, so I guess that pretty much does it for this week. I think we're probably at the point where we're all talked out. So, yeah, we'll be back again next week. So we've got the 4 games this week, and we'll get probably to the proper discussion of the, how people get the most out of League in their week. And,
There was your
now
little.
that
There was your
everything
little.
else is out of the way.
yeah,
Yeah, there was your little teaser. A little bit of a teaser for you.
yeah.
Tune in next week for
Tune in next week for the discussion. We said
Come
tune
back
in
next week.
that was meant to happen last week.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it from us. We'll be back again next week.
See you, fellas.
I love
ya.
you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.